Hello, it's Josie, and this is my virtual tour of the English Language Arts Standards in Common Core. So this first page kind of just discusses how Common Core wants literacy in all contents, as well as for all ages. They also really want students to be prepared for life outside of high school, and they want students to become critical thinkers and participants in the 21st century. Under the Introduction tab, we have key design considerations. And one thing that I didn't know about was for Common Core, every grade has a set of standards, but when you get to high school, there are grade band standards. So grades 9 and 10 have the same set of standards, and grades 11 and 12 have the same set of standards. The level of text that you're reading is supposed to be different, but the goals are the same, and that's something that I previously did not know. Also, under the Introduction tab are students who are college and career ready in reading, writing, speaking, listening, and language. So there's a pretty good list here of things that Common Core wants students to be able to do, or what they want students to be. One thing that I thought was interesting was they use technology and digital media strategically and capably. When you do get to college or when you are in your career, you're expected to use certain applications or certain technology, and I think having students do that early in their education will help them build and become better at doing this. So now we have the anchor standards, and I think anchor standards in general are interesting. It's a set of goals that no matter what age you are, you're expected to meet. Things are just kind of different based off of that. So no matter what age you are, you're basically expected in reading, so this is the reading tab, to be able to understand a text and its arguments, as well as find evidence from that to defend what you think their argument is. Then for the anchor standards of writing, you're basically being asked to produce 3 different types of writing. So one that is argumentative, one that is explanatory, and a narrative. So again, every age should be able to do this, but it's just going to be different. So for narratives, like a 6-year-old might be asked to write what they did for summer, whereas a high school student might be asked to produce a short story following a certain structure. We also have speaking and listening anchor standards, and all the speaking and listening standards are usually my favorite. I love promoting collaboration among students, which this asks. So you're asked to be able not only to talk with others about your ideas and how to understand their ideas, but also go into presenting your ideas using digital media or visual displays, which I think is very helpful for students as they move on in their education. Then we have the language anchor standards. So most of this is just saying, okay, you need to, no matter if you're writing or speaking, you need to be grammatically correct and use proper grammar and proper English. But also we move on into vocabulary, which kind of goes into what we did in class. So students are expected to be able to use context clues to find out words in their readings. They're also expected to use figurative language and acquire a range of general academic and domain-specific words and phrases. Now for the reading literature with the specific grade band 9 through 10. So 9th and 10th graders are expected to read literature and thoroughly understand the theme and the characters, as well as how the theme and characters develop throughout the text, and also be able to cite. I think it's been pretty clear that the Common Core really focuses on being able to cite things and have evidence for whatever claim you're making. We also have something here that I really liked. So analyze a particular point of view or cultural experience reflected in a work of literature from outside the United States. So when I was in high school or middle school, most of the texts I read were either American literature or European literature. So I think having this standard really promotes world literature and world competence and being able to read literature from a variety of cultures, which I think will benefit students majorly. Next is reading informational texts for 9th and 10th graders. So of course they're going to be expected to be able to analyze an argument and cite as well. Also going into the vocabulary again in craft and structure, we have to determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in a text, including figurative, connotative, and technical meanings. So the words that they're seeing might be words that they have seen, but maybe not used in this way. So it kind of goes into like how dynamic vocabulary is and how important it is as well. And one thing that I saw that I also really liked was not here. It's on a different page. Just kidding. It was on this page. So they need to identify false statements and fallacious reasoning. I think this is important just as a global citizen, reading political pieces and stuff. So I think it's really important to teach students at this age that, maybe not all authors are making their arguments using proper statements or proper arguments. So for the writing for 9th and 10th graders, they're expected to produce argumentative pieces where their claims have good evidence and they're developed. They're also expected to have informative and explanatory text down, so they're expected to convey complex ideas, introduce topics, and use precise language, so that again goes back to vocabulary. And also write narratives as well. One thing that I think is really important is they're supposed to be able to realize and strengthen their writing through the process of writing. So by planning, revising, editing, rewriting, or trying a new approach, I think having that and establishing that routine will help them advance as writers. So now we have the speaking and listening standards for 9th and 10th grade, which I really like, again, like I said before. So they're expected to converse right here with diverse partners on grades 9 through 10 topics, texts, and issues, building on others' ideas and expressing their own clearly and persuasively. So I think this goes back to Common Core's goal of preparing students for life outside of school and becoming critical thinkers. I think hearing other people's ideas and then building on that or going against it is a process that should be learned. I also think focusing on presentations is huge, and using digital media in those presentations is also big. In college, you definitely have to do that. At work, if you're doing anything business or marketing, I'm sure there's others that I'm not even aware of, you have to do plenty of presentations. And so getting students in the habit of doing that and, again, building their confidence with that, I think will be really helpful for their future. We also have the language standards for 9th and 10th grade. One thing that surprised me was right here, their focus on the colon and the semicolon. It kind of surprised me because I noticed this a lot. I'm an SAT tutor, so I noticed SATs focus on the semicolon and the colon in their grammar and writing section. So I thought this was really interesting that they really want students to use, I guess, what is kind of considered elevated punctuation and be able to understand how to use it and how it's being used incorrectly. I also think right here is really helpful. Write and edit work so that it conforms to the guidelines in a style manual, especially MLA. No matter what kind of career field you go into as you're in college, they're going to have like a specific style manual. So having students get in the habit of the technology behind that too is really helpful. So as I was looking through the standard 10 range, quality, and complexity, the thing that stood out to me the most was the text illustrating the complexity, quality, and range of student readings. I really like all of these texts, but I was not expecting such advanced text for this grade level, which I'm happy about, but also kind of worried about as a teacher. So we have Macbeth in 9th grade. I read Macbeth my senior year of high school. I think it'll be helpful as they build on top of those texts and get used to reading the dense text and doing close readings with them as well. So something like Macbeth would definitely, like a act or a couple lines of it would definitely be worthy of a close read for a 9th grader. I think it's definitely helpful, but it is something I'm concerned about. If they're just rough texts. So for literacy in history, social studies, for the 9th and 10th graders, there is a big focus on primary and secondary sources and being able to analyze that. I think that provides students good perspectives, and so that they can determine whether earlier events were caused by later ones or simply preceded them. So it gives them an interesting way to connect things and hear different voices from the time versus simply reading a textbook. So for science and technical studies, they're supposed to be able to cite evidence to support analysis of science. So they're supposed to be able to do basically their own research and produce texts and understand them to help them. I also, again, going back to vocabulary, we have the determine the meaning of symbols, key terms, and other domain-specific words. So whenever I've read a scientific journal, they definitely are full of domain-specific words. So helping students with that, especially students who want to be scientists or engineers, I think that will be great for them. So lastly, we have writing for 9th and 10th grade. So basically students are expected to be able to write arguments, so write argumentative text, informative/explanatory text. They're also, what I thought was interesting here was to do research. So conduct short as well as more sustained research projects, and then maybe create a research text, which is the primary writing in college. So I think introducing them to finding research and then writing about it will lead them into college. And that was my virtual tour of the Common Core Standards English Language Arts Standards. Thank you.